Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning from wherever you are. Now, everything in this world has its fandom. Be it film, be it TV, be it sport, books, comic books, railways, cars, you name it. It has a fandom, it has a fan base, it has a tribe, it has a clique. But none, absolutely none, are more toxic, more scummy, more sexist than the wrestling fans. With everything that transpired in the last week with the episode of Dark Side of the Ring, the plane ride from hell, in which we actually learned a lot more details than at least I knew about Ric Flair actually almost sexually assaulting an air stewardess by trying to get her to grab his cock. All right, and people being drugged on that flight, and RVD just casually talking about wrestlers date raping women. Nobody's called RVD up on this. I can't believe it that Tommy Dreamer and Ric Flair are the ones getting accosted, which they should be, but nobody's questioning RVD about which wrestling promotion was this. ECW culture? Was this the indie circuit culture? Was this WWE culture? Anyway, after the Ric Flair thing came up, a whole lot of other stories came up on Twitter about Ric Flair's sexual improprieties. And Tommy Dreamer, during that episode, also said that, people are snowflakes. They're easily offended by everything when we're talking about a woman getting sexually assaulted here. And then he tries to brush off her, well, why did she take the payout? Well, you're not a woman, Tommy Dreamer. You don't know how difficult this shit is. But what got to me, what's really pissed me off and why I'm making this video, I've been wanting to do a video on wrestling fans in general, but this was the straw that broke the camel's back, okay? And the vast majority of them are defending Tommy and defending Ric Flair for what he did. Even Jim Cornette, who, his attitude towards women has always been questionable anyway. He always tries to brush it off as nothing, but his sexism is just vulgar. Okay, and he's been called out on it many times, even by Brian Last, and he still continues to this day. He made a video defending Ric Flair, but he had no problem criticizing Tommy Dreamer. Oh, and people are defending this. They're defending what Ric Flair did, and they're defending what Tommy Dreamer said. Okay, and they had one now just on Reddit was like, oh, all these woke culture going after Tommy Dreamer. It's not. It's normal, common human decency to not want to see members of the opposite sex raped, drugged, assaulted, harassed, beaten. It's not woke. If you call that woke, then that means you are probably the biggest cunt on the planet to call that woke. That means you have no human decency. Okay? And wrestling just has the absolute worst problem when it comes to women. I'm not surprised. We're talking about a bunch of muscle-bound meatheads with no brains and egos the size of Jupiter who don't like being told what to do, who have no idea about anything. They have no etiquette towards other human beings. It's all about self. That's why a lot of right-wingers are brain-dead fucking meatheads and prone to violence, because their brain just cannot comprehend anything. Literally anything. Alright? Look at the amount of anti-vaxxers and Trump nutjobs in the wrestling community. Alright, last year we had Speaking Out. Okay? I think it was last year. It must have been last year. Which was all to do with the mass amounts of sexual assaults and harassments within the wrestling industry. And then this comes out and you're like, okay, you understand a lot of people would have known about Dark Side of the Ring, the plane ride from hell, but then with Speaking Out coming out and all these horror stories, and a year later, and the wrestling community and the wrestling fans still blame women, still have no respect for what they went through, still defend these absolute scumbags just because they're a fan of their work. Well, you know what? Gary Glitter made one of my favourite songs in the world. Do you think I'm gonna bloody sit there and go, oh no, let him go for being a nonce? Fuck no, let that cunt hang from the gallows for what he did. Alright? You've got to stop putting your heroes on a bloody pedestal and thinking they've done no wrong, they could do no wrong, or that your whole world is going to collapse just because the person who you worship is a piece of shit. You know what? Like any artist, you can enjoy their work, but understand they're a piece of shit, and in the present time, they deserve the consequences that they suffer for their actions. Alright, but the wrestling community is so thick. I mean, they cannot, of all the communities, the one thing the wrestling fans cannot stand is criticism of their tribe. They cannot stand it. They feel it's like you've broken into their house and beat them up and teabagged them just for simply saying that this current product, for example WWE, is a load of crap, or this wrestler is overrated, and here's why. You show them the evidence, and yet they still sit there and think that you have, shit in their shoes or something. It's a ridiculously small-minded, brain-dead community that makes even the gaming and football community look like an enlightened bunch. Their attitude, defending Tommy Dreamer for what he said, accosting women for not wanting to be assaulted. This community has a long way to go. We have people, when I talk about they don't like their tribe being criticized, we have people threatening and doxing and finding people's addresses just because they point out what botches in AEW, and the person that did that was threatened. Okay, they found where he lived. They had pictures of him and his kids. That's not normal. Understand, learn criticism, learn to understand when all the evidence is put in front of you why something is bad. But you don't, because you're so wrapped up in this little world. I get it. It's your little escapism from the shit around this world. But your little escapism is not immune from criticism. Your little heroes, your little grappling heroes, are not immune from criticism. The vast majority of wrestlers are pieces of shit as human beings, as we've come to find out. A lot of them, even the ones where you think, oh, this guy's very mild and all that, and then you find they have a long list of sexual misconduct. It's just it's such a garbage community. It really is. And I'm not as big a wrestling fan as I once was. That's not down to the community. That's just down to the product being rubbish. Alright? But I would be fucking ashamed to say I'm part of any kind of wrestling community. Fuck wrestling fans. Fuck you all. You're all just fucking cunts. Fuck off.